Brian, it's good to be with you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
I got you perfectly, man. I'm
Great.
just so bad with technology. It's good
So
to
am
be
I,
with you.
Joe. So am I, Joe. We're in the same boat there. I got to tell you, I haven't said a lot of nice things about Dinesh D'Souza over the course of the last couple of years, but you showed so much patience with him. I don't know if I would have been able to do it. What was that like, and how did you land that interview?
Well, every week I try to sit down with somebody who doesn't think like me. I don't want to talk to people who think like I do. I've had a hard time, Brian, getting high profile people on the right to sit down with me.
Welcome to the club. That's what I go with every day.
I mean, a lot of my old colleagues in Congress, I've invited Jim Jordan, I've invited Tucker Carlson, a lot of people, and they don't want to do it because they'd rather just be safe in their little cocoons. Dinesh came out and we had I think, a good talk about January 6th and the 2020 election. But you know what's weird, Brian? I want your take. Most of my followers on the left pretty much said, "Oh, Joe, don't talk to him. Don't give him a platform. That's a waste." What's your take on that?
I couldn't disagree more. First of all, I want people like you. It could be in a respectful manner, which clearly you did, but I want people like you to expose Dinesh D'Souza for, let's call it for what it is, lies. I completely disagree with them. Dinesh D'Souza is not a dumb guy. He's smart. No. He knows how to market himself. He knows how to say controversial things to get clicks. He knows how to put out a movie that he knows the base will love on the right, even though everything basically has been debunked in that movie. But he's not stupid. And I want people like you, who are also extremely intelligent, to call them out. In that interview that you did with Dinesh D'Souza, he really didn't provide any real evidence that could even come close to proving that the 2020 election was stolen. Yet you really believe, this is my question for you, do you believe, Joe Walsh, that Dinesh D'Souza actually believes that the election was stolen?
I do. And you and I have talked about this before. Not every crazy person on the right believes it. Dinesh does believe it. We've talked enough offline. I'm convinced he does. But what's fascinating, Brian, that movie, 2000 Mules, when I walked him through it, even by the end of him trying to make his case for it, I said, Dinesh, you realize that no claims are proven. This is all unproven as of right now. And even he said, yes, he's just trying to put it out there. But he does believe it. He believes it was stolen. And unlike me, Brian, he doesn't believe January 6th was a violent attempt to overthrow an election. We found some common ground. He agreed with me that it was a bad day. He agreed with me that people should have been arrested, but he didn't think these people were really trying to stop the democratic process.
I don't understand that. To me, that's like saying the earth is flat. Many of those people were even screaming out that they wanted to overturn the election, and that was exactly why they were there. Number one, and you know this, they were unhappy with the outcome of the election. And number two, they were buying the BS that Donald Trump and his cronies were spewing, that the election was stolen. And they went in there trying to overturn the outcome of the election. I mean, I don't understand. That's like saying the sky isn't blue.
So this is why I think I have a hard time getting some of my right-wing media buddies and Congress colleagues to come sit with me, because the evidence and the truth is on our side. Like when Dinesh got into January 6th and he was trying to say that these poor grandmas and grandpas didn't know what they were doing, in their own words, thousands some arrested, in their own words, they've testified they were there to stop the certification, period.
Right.
So what you do, Brian, you know this because you do this, you just keep putting the facts in front of them. And I was surprised. Dinesh is a good guy. I've known him a long time, but he really didn't fight back on a lot of the facts.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm glad he did your show, but I got to tell you something. When Barack Obama was president, he would consistently go on Twitter and call Barack Obama a Negro. He's made racist comments about Barack Obama. We know he's been arrested, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, for campaign finance fraud.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You obviously have had private conversations with him. And I've always looked at this guy as a different guy when the cameras aren't on him. But you're telling me he's that same guy. He actually believes this stuff.
He believes a lot of it. And you know what, Brian, you and I have talked about all of my former colleagues in talk radio and in Congress. What happened to them? Why did they all sell their soul to Trump? Mm-hmm. Many of them are true believers and they're crazies. Dinesh isn't a crazy. Many of them are stupid and they're just cheerleaders like Sean Hannity. And by the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah.
But some are like Dinesh, where like Trump just broke him, Brian. I mean, Trump broke him. It's like Trump happened and all of a sudden Dinesh's world changed and he said, oh my God, I no longer have my following. Oh, okay, I'm going to have to do this.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. Now, he's always been a little conspiratorial. And so on the election stuff, and it got personal with him and Obama, you're right. Mm-hmm. On some of that stuff, he's been off the planet. But Trump broke him, literally broke him.
I want to name another guy that will never do your show, I'm sure, but I would love to see it, and that would be Charlie Kirk. And a complete clown, uneducated, but I would love for you to interview him. You know, he's talking on this college campus the other day, and Joe, I know just like myself, you would never condone violence, and Antifa shows up, and they're breaking windows and stuff, and they're just idiots for doing that. They shouldn't be doing that. But Charlie Kirk always wants to present himself as a victim. He always wants to say that systemic racism exists with white people, not black people. What do you make of a guy like Charlie Kirk, who seems to incite violence and seems to continue to spread conspiracy theories?
He's a poster child for this new class of grifters on the right. He's made millions, and he's an utter young fraud. Now, Brian, I think we've talked about this. You know, it's personal with Charlie Kirk and myself. I know him. I helped him start Turning Point USA. I was his mentor for the first 4 to 5 years. Charlie Kirk, Brian, will never sit down with me because I know the truth about him. We've had conversations going way back about Trump and Trumpism. So Charlie will never come on with me because he knows I know.
Yeah, and he's a coward. He's a coward, and he'll go to these universities and make his money just like a Ben Shapiro will. Even though,
well, you know what's interesting, Brian? You know what's interesting? Like a lot of people on the left pounded me upside the head because they said Dinesh D'Souza is not an honest broker, and in many ways he's not. But if Tucker Carlson called me and said, "All right, Walsh, I'll come on your show," I'd have him on, and Tucker's not an honest broker, but I'd love to go at him for the things he said.
Let me be very clear because I get this question a lot too. If O.J. Simpson, who I believe is a double murderer, was willing to sit next to me and talk about what took place 30 years ago, I would say yes. I believe he's a double murderer. So I think we can put all those conversations aside, regardless of if you think somebody might be despicable or somebody's a liar. Listen, if Donald Trump wanted to do your show, you would do it, right?
In a heartbeat. And Brian, here's the reason. And look, I know that I have a weird following now because I've had a weird 5 or 6 years. So I do have a lot of people on the left now who follow me, and I get it. They hate everybody on the right, and it's not their job to do what I do. I come from Mega World. I come from the cult. Part of my job is to reach these people on the right and try to engage and change some of them. But what I'm trying to do, Brian, is this. Dinesh D'Souza is now my political opposition. I think it's important to clearly understand how he thinks and push back on how he thinks, because I want to defeat people who think like him. We've got to know who our political enemies are.
Agree. The only reason why I'm skeptical, and I respect your opinion because you're saying that you believe Dinesh D'Souza believes this stuff. The only reason, and I trust your judgment, but the only reason why I'm a little skeptical is because he's doing it for money. He makes this movie for money. When he spreads conspiracy theories, he does it for money. And many of these Far righties like the Charlie Kirks or the Candace Owens are doing it, in my opinion, for one reason. Not because they necessarily believe what they say. They do it for money. Carrie Lake is another example. She knows she's going to get a great gig somewhere. If she's not a politician or if she doesn't run for vice president, she's going to get a gig on a network. She's going to be somewhere. And I believe that's why she continues to spread the lies. Dinesh D'Souza profited off of 2,000 Mules. He continues to profit and make TV appearances because of the things he says.
Oh, hey, Brian, by the way, I agree with everything you just said. And so let me correct myself. So it's a scale, and most of them, everything they do and say is for the money, the complete grifters.
Yeah.
Dinesh, I'm just saying, on the issue of was 2020 stolen, I know that Dinesh believes that.
Mm-hmm.
On a lot of this other shit and all the other propaganda he's put out there over the years, I don't think he believes most of it.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm sorry. On this one, I know he does.
Understood. So I want to ask you, we had Ron DeSantis in town last week, and Joe Biden was just here a few days ago in Vegas. I've been talking about the difference between the two visits, right? Ron DeSantis comes here to sell his book, which I've said I would use as toilet paper, but that's here nor there. He comes out here last week, Joe, and he talks about critical race theory. He brags about the migrants he sent to Martha's Vineyard. Literally, he had no solutions to any of the issues facing this country, like gun control or health care or any of the top issues that so many Americans are struggling with today. No solutions, just tried to sell his book and the red meat of the Republican Party. Joe Biden comes out here. Why does he come out here the other day? Because Nevada leads the country in cost of prescription drugs. He comes over here not to try to get votes or to sell a book or make money. He came here and he spoke at UNLV, implementing, or at least what he's trying to implement, to lower the cost of prescription drugs. To me, that is the difference right now between the overwhelming majority of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, where Democrats are actually coming up with solutions. You might not agree with what they're coming up with, and Republicans, all they want to do is bitch and complain like the Jim Jordans of the world, and they don't have any solutions.
Well, I agree with you, but in Ron DeSantis's defense, and I don't like him, Ron DeSantis wants to be the Republican nominee for president. Mm-hmm. So he has one job right now, Brian, one job. That's every freaking day, throw the red meat up there and get the base to like me. So he's got a much different job, and he's in a very different position than President Biden is, who will be, if he runs, the Democratic nominee. So Biden can then be above it all and focus on the country. So I defend DeSantis on that. But, Brian, I know DeSantis. I'll tell you what, if he runs, he is not going to wear well, man. He's got zero charisma. He's a weird dude. He's weird with people. He's got a glass jaw. He's easily offended. He's mean, and he can't think on his feet. If Ron DeSantis becomes the Republican nominee, Brian, it will be a miracle, because he will prove that you can be a major party nominee for president and be utterly incapable of any retail politics. He cannot do retail politics, which is why I think he's going to flame out.
I think Donald Trump's going to destroy him in a debate. That's just my personal opinion, Joe. How do you feel about that?
I agree. My only caveat is, if Trump's heart is into this thing, like if he really is running hard to be the Republican nominee again, I think he wins. I sometimes I wonder if he's just going through the motions. That's all.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. I find it interesting that, he's still the governor of Florida and he's on this book tour trying to sell his books, but that's fine. If you're just joining us, former presidential candidate Joe Walsh, love this guy, former congressman in Chicago. A couple more quick questions for you, Joe, and we'll let you go. All right, let me ask you this. You talked about this on social media. You actually gave a definition of wokeness. I believe that this is a term that Republicans bring up. If they just don't like something, they just call it woke. But you actually gave your definition of wokeness on social media the other day. What is it?
And Brian, what's important is I'm still a hardcore Tea Party conservative. I am a woke conservative. To me, woke is just what's happened to me the last 5 years. I opened my eyes, I woke up, and I realized, my God, there are more systemic injustices than I was ever aware of. So to me, woke is just waking up to that, becoming more aware of basic injustices and gaining empathy toward that. That's all. That's all. Nobody's forcing anybody to be woke. It's just becoming more aware, and I'm glad that I have.
Yeah, and I am as well. I want to ask you this. You know Jim Jordan pretty well.
Yeah.
When you request or reach out, I guess, to a guy like a Jim Jordan to come on your show, what is his response? Does he just say no, thank you? Does he give you a reason?
So Jordan pretty much stopped talking to me, Brian, after I launched my presidential challenge to Trump. And he and I were really close, man. We talked a lot, man. And he and a number of others did what they could to talk me out of running against Trump. But the minute I got out there and I'm publicly challenging Trump and going after Trump, he won't talk to me anymore. So when I reach out to him, I'll typically hear from a staffer.
Right.
That's about it.
Do they ever give you a reason why he won't come on?
No, just busy, not going to work right now. So I tend to keep trying every few months, and I will.
Yeah. I really want to hook you up with the Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci. He did this show the other day. I think you guys could have a great
conversation. What'd you think of Mooch?
I love him. I absolutely love him. I love his honesty. That's a true New Yorker. Trump is a fake New Yorker. The Mooch calls it as he sees it. His nickname for Donald Trump is Tiny Trump, which I think fits him very well. We talked about Kevin McCarthy. He called him a spineless fish, like you would. You guys are very similar in a lot of ways in that you're honest. You're not afraid of going after people. You're intelligent. You know how the game is played. And I mean, that's a guy that I would vote for. I mean, he's a staunch Republican, but like you, he's not happy with where the Republican Party is at right now. And he hasn't talked to Trump for years now. I guess ever since he made a off-color remark he told me about Steve Bannon, and then Trump fired him. But I love the Mooch, and you know, Fox News won't. You used to go on Fox News all the time. The Mooch used to be on Fox News all the time. They won't have you guys on anymore. For the reason of just being honest and calling out the far right and the extremism.
Period. And Anthony and I have talked about that. Fox News will not have him on or me on. Look, Brian, it's a real short list of Republicans and former Republicans who stood up in the public square these last 5, 6, 7 years and said, no, I can't support that. In fact, I oppose that. And every one of us, Brian, who did that, pretty much took a blowtorch to our career. Now, to Anthony Scaramucci's credit, he's pretty damn wealthy on his own. That wasn't my background, but he took a hit. Once you come out against Trump in our position, you're done, and that's hard.
I agree. Joe, before I let you go, any guests upcoming? Gosh, I love that interview with Dinesh D'Souza. I thought it was great. Any new guests upcoming, or people that you're trying to get on an upcoming podcast that you can share with us?
No, and I'm only saying no because I've got a number of them in the air, and I don't want to give away any yet. But gotcha. It'll be the same old thing. Oh, by the way, we moved to 3 episodes a week next week, this upcoming week.
That's great.
So we'll have different conversations and I'm going to start giving more advice to Democrats. I'm going to sit down specifically with a Trump supporter every week and try to draw them out. So we're going to keep doing interesting stuff on White Flag with Joe Walsh. Brian, I love being on with you. Thank you, brother.
I always love it when you come on, Joe. It's always an honor. You know how much I respect you and always appreciate your time. Joe Walsh, thank you so much as always. You have a great weekend, brother. Okay.
Hey, you better be drinking tonight. I am. St. Patty's.
Absolutely. St. Patty's, baby. Joe Walsh, have some fun. Thanks, out there tonight. All right.
Thanks,
take care. Man. I love that guy. I love Joe Walsh. It's a man crush. I love that guy. Joe Walsh is the best. Smart, intelligent, honest, admits when he was wrong. Certainly he admits he was wrong about Donald Trump. What are your thoughts on what Joe Walsh said about the Republican Party? What are your thoughts on that interview? Because, gosh, I always love catching up with Joe Walsh. He is a man of integrity. He is a man who's honest. He is a man who